Okay. Again, wasn't really looking forward to doing this, but I just feel like I have to. I need to further explain my point here. What I've been trying to say for quite a while. I, much as I try, if I could write it, I'd probably prefer to, because I'm much more articulate when I write, I think, and also, less chance of ridicule based on appearance or whatnot. It happens a lot with very immature people, but not the point. Point is though, I need to say something because here's the deal. When it comes to teachers' unions, I wish to God people would understand what the problem here is. When it comes to our education system in general, these teachers' unions, oh my gosh, what they have set up for them, um, and what they have going here is almost nothing short of a racket. I'm sorry, it is. I have seen people come out of high school with the literacy level of a fifth grader, if they're lucky. I have seen people come out of. Now, that's not to say that everyone who comes out of high school is only going to have that literacy level. I'm saying that there are several people who do come out of high schools with that literacy level, and it's sad. This should not be. There are people who are being sent home with their study material. It's not notes that they had to take in class. It is not, having to research a chapter and take their own notes. They're being handed test keys, test answer keys, to take home and study. And I'm going to come back to that in a little bit because this is something people don't seem to believe me that they're doing that. But I'm going to come back to that in a sec. Um, what happens though is that when you do things like this, when you do just pass the buck on and pass the kids on and just get them out of your hair because you got your tenure, you got your seniority, you're protected. Where's the motivation to actually do your job properly? Especially since you got this sweet benefit deal where you pay in pretty much nothing, and you're going to be able to kick back and retire at 55. It gets ridiculous. Now, another here's one of the huge problems when it comes to motivation for a teacher to do well. What's one of the best motivational tools you can use to get someone to do their job well? Anyone at all? Anyone know? Okay, I'll tell you what. Merit pay, for those of you who apparently couldn't figure this out. If you give someone a bonus, if you incentivize them to try to outperform their coworkers, they will do it. Now, it could be a pay raise because of that, could be a one-time bonus given out because of that, could be anything, but so long as there is an incentive for you to reach for that, people are going to try to do it. There's just one problem. We can't do that. We cannot even keep a teacher on based on the merits of their work. And here's an example of that. Last year, 2010, there was a young lady by the name of oh, I'm sorry, not young lady per se. I assume she's young. She was a first-year teacher anyway. Named Megan Sampson, and she was given an award, Outstanding First-Year Teacher. She was very good at what she did. She was a great teacher. But the problem is, budget cuts happened. They had to happen. And because the unions flat out refused any concession, no extra contribution, no pay cut, nothing, layoffs had to get handed out. And because of the clause in their contract that says that everything has to be considered based on seniority, this first year teacher, this award winning first year teacher, she had to go. She was one of the best teachers in the state. Certainly as a first year teacher, she had to go. Fired. Because other teachers who had been there longer and weren't performing as well as her were protected by union contract. Now, see, this is what is meant when people talk about what's wrong with this picture? Okay, I'm not sure if I can really give any examples that people are really going to sink into, but the best one that I can think of was actually an old movie, To Sir with Love. Starred Sidney Poitier. It was set in England. It was made back in the late 60s, early 70s, I believe. Um, and what it is it's about Sidney Poitier as a teacher, and he comes to this inner city school with these kids, major problem kids. They're not motivated. They're slackers. They get into trouble all the time. They have a hard time keeping teachers for this class because they just decide, I give up. They, walk out. These kids are a really tough bunch. They figure everyone, when he gets there, everyone's warning him, just, stay out of their way, put up with them, try to stay in one piece long enough to, collect your paycheck, then send them off. The thing is, he doesn't do that. As the film progresses, he gets more involved with their lives. He refuses to sit back and just let them throw their life away, let them stay in this state that they're in. He reaches out to them, he tries to help them, he tries to get things working for them, and he actually takes an interest in their life. He sets up activities for them to do. They go on class trips. He teaches them on the spot, too. It's not just a sightseeing field trip. He actually educates them there on the spot. They are learning things. He is teaching them. He is making an effort to teach them. He's making an effort to get to know them. Making an effort to make a difference in their life. And it really works. So much so that they are just so beyond grateful to him. And it's really an amazing story. But if you were to take that film and you were to set that here in the United States with our teachers' unions, specifically here in Wisconsin even with our teachers' unions, and so much as a budget cut happened, and layoffs had to come around, because they're not going to give up any concessions. For years now, they have not given hardly any concessions. The layoffs would come around and he'd get the axe. All those other teachers that were saying just ignore them, let them go, pass them, get rid of them, they'd get to stay. He would get the axe. And he was the one trying to make a difference in their life. This is how the system is set up. This is what is part of what is wrong with our system. This is why what happened was necessary to avoid this kind of thing. They have to be able to make the necessary adjustments to avoid layoffs, to be able to keep on these new teachers who are doing a good job, to be able to keep on the, any teacher that's doing a good job. The ability to then opt out of the union if they don't want to join. That way, they can make any concessions they want to, or if they're, they're not forced to pay mandatory dues, that's for sure, so there's extra money in the paycheck if they want it. There's going to be pros and cons to joining or not joining, and they can decide whatever's best for them. It's also why the members of the union have to vote on the contract yearly. It's so that stuff that does get put in there like this, saying that it's based entirely on seniority, if they don't like it, they can vote to absolve that and rewrite it. Do you see this? This empowered the public workers. If I'm doing a good job and Mr. 10-year veteran over there is slacking off, when layoffs roll around, I'd really rather not be the one that gets laid off because I am doing a darn good job at my job, whereas slacker over there is going to get to stay on. Why? Seniority. They have protection because they have seniority and they know it, which is why, some of them, I'm going to be fair here, not all of them do it, but there are a lot who do. And it's sad, but there you have it. And when you have a systemic problem like this and you try to fix it, and then you're called a fascist dictator, it's ridiculous. It really is. Are they now able to make adjustments to, say, benefits packages without necessarily the consent of the teachers? Yes, they are. Because it is government money, government spending, and the government can choose where they do or do not allocate those funds. Now, if someone's being incredibly stupid and hedging way too much off of it, then, you know, also if people are demanding too much, it's optional to opt into the health insurance. You can opt out of that. Same for the pension plan. But, I mean, seriously, when nobody is, going to be forced to join the union. They can still bargain for their salary. That's not touched. They have every right to bargain for their salary. Every right. They can still bargain on an individual need basis for what they need for their school, what they need for their class. No, I know a lot of people are saying collective bargaining is what's going to get us. Well, see, here's the problem. Well, what's going to happen when you buy all these new computers, and then what happens? So many have to go to each school in each district, and, one school may not need these. This school might need more than just whatever rationed amount, but whatever, that's all they're going to get. It's going to be proportionate to their need. If they need something, they can, lobby for it themselves. If this is nowhere near as restrictive as people are thinking it is. It's going to open up half the problem here. I mean, it's going to open up the ability to actually make the union work for you now. It's going to open up the ability to actually be rewarded for working hard, knowing that if slacker over there won't contribute and you're busting your butt to do what you know you need to do, or to educate these kids because you care about them, which a good teacher does, then next time layoffs wind up having to roll around, you can take comfort in the fact that you're going to keep your job because you're doing a good job, and slacker McGee over there is going to get cut. This is a load off of the mind. It should be a load off of the mind of anyone who is employed in this area. I don't understand what it is that people aren't getting about this. This is it's a systemic problem with the education system, and sadly, a good chunk of it is based in teachers. Yes. I mean, for crying out loud, people saying that they don't make unrealistic demands either. The friggin' teachers union threatened to go on strike here, pretty much. They were throwing a fit because they wanted taxpayer-funded Viagra. And when they cut it, because they said we really cannot afford to keep giving you Viagra, they actually tried to sue them based on sex discrimination against men. They were throwing a fit. They were threatening all kinds of stuff, walkouts, everything. It was ugly. And it was over free Viagra. So, I mean, seriously, don't be telling me that they don't make unrealistic demands. The bottom line here is that this is going to actually reward people for good behavior. Reward people for good performance. Just like any other job out there in the private sector. Where, if you're sitting around goofing off and not doing the job to the best of your ability, you're going to get your butt kicked out on the street. You sit there and you try to do the best, the best you can to the best of your ability, you're going to stay on. I mean, it also has to do with promotions, too. Seniority-based promotions. Again, not having to do with performance or qualification, but seniority. This can be addressed, too. This is going to improve the public sector workplace by such a great amount, and yet people just can't grasp it. I don't know if it's because they don't understand what just happened. I don't know if it's because they're being lied to about what just happened, and I definitely lean toward that. I do know this, though. The union bosses are now scared out of their frickin' mind, because now they don't control the grunts the grunts will control them. This does not make them happy.